Welcome to Sailing El Jaleo. I am a mid-40-year-old who in my early 40s became disillusioned with modern society and all of its promises and pitfalls. Feeling that life was getting a little too boring, I decided to do the logical thing, which is to buy a 40-year-old sailboat and spend the next 3 or 4 years converting it into a long-range, off-grid sailing vessel. Or it might have just been a midlife crisis, who knows. From there, I enlisted the help of my trusty crew, and we've been spending the last 3 years going up and down the east coast of the United States, learning how to sail, learning how to read charts, how to navigate, how to read tides, and basically just how to survive on a sailboat. From here, we plan on spending one more summer up north, doing one last round of upgrades before finally escaping the United States in late 2024 or early 2025. These are our adventures. Feel free to come along if you'd like. After spending a night anchored in front of Fort Frederica, it was time for us to rejoin the Intracoastal Waterway and get back on the road heading north. We were entering one of my favorite stretches of the Intracoastal Waterway, which is the Salt Marshes of Georgia, an extensive salt grassland. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love it. So we might as well go ahead and get right into it. Grab a drink, climb aboard, and let's get going. Georgia's coastal marshlands encompass approximately 368,000 acres in a 4 to 6 mile wide band behind the Barrier Islands. Thriving in the waters of the estuaries, these marshes have been identified as one of the most extensive and productive marshland systems in the United States. The salt marshes in Georgia make up the largest percentage of the remaining marshlands along the entire eastern coast of the United States. These tidally inundated grassy wetlands crossed and drained by a series of increasingly smaller tidal creeks which are created as a result of the melting glaciers during the ice ages. The origin of Georgia's marshlands can be tracked back to the Holocene melting of the continental glaciers. One theory suggests that sediment, sand, and soil brought down by the rivers, blown by the wind, and washed ashore by the waves gradually built up ridges and dunes on the landward side of the shoreline. Water from the melting glaciers resulted in rising sea levels which flooded the coast and mainland, and the ridges were given prominence as barrier islands. Ocean waters behind these islands formed lagoons and later the marshlands. This process took place several times, thereby creating additional marshes between more barrier islands and finally the salt marshes as we know them today. Developed from the lagoons which filled with sediment and deposits from rivers and streams flowing to the ocean, the marshlands of Georgia gradually began to assume their status as a vital part of one of the world's greatest estuaries. Symbolic of the salt marshes is a tall cord-like grass called Spartina altiflora, which virtually covers the coastal marsh area. The environment in which the Spartina grass flourishes is neither all terrestrial nor all marine, but rather a combination of both. Spartina is very abundant in this area because of an evolved adaptation. Most other plants die when inundated by salt water at high tide, but cordgrass has the ability to remove most of the salt from the water it uses, keeping high concentrations of dissolved solids in the root structure and extracting salt through highly specialized salt glands. The plants are hardy. They have extensive underground structures, both leaves and stems. The plant roots grow horizontally, giving rise to new plants, allowing for fast colonization of the salt marsh. And because the structure is underground, the plant is protected from hazards such as freezing or fire. Some scientists estimate the below-ground biomass of Spartina can be as much as 2.5 times that of the visible above-ground parts. An important point because these structures hold the marsh together and slow erosion. Did you get all that? Did you write all that down? What can I say? I'm a dork. I like reading about stuff as I travel through areas. So, we were on an offshoot here, the Frederica River, and it's not a part of the Intracoastal Waterway. And just up ahead is where it rejoins the Intracoastal Waterway, and it is a little bit tricky to rejoin properly. Especially at low tide, which it was now. There's a very narrow channel that you can get through. There's a shoal that extends out from the west bank, and that comes about halfway out into the channel, and there's also one from the east bank, but it's not as pronounced. And I wasn't paying as close of attention as I should have, and I missed the channel by about 3 feet. It's very narrow to get through at low tide, and I just barely missed it.
just a bit outside.
And this was our first grounding of the season. It's not a big deal. It was a very soft mud bottom. There's no damage going to be done to the boat or anything. And I went up front to jump up and down on the bow to see if I could get the back end to wiggle loose. But with a full keel, you know, once you're stuck, a lot of times you're just stuck. Especially when you're going like 3.5, 4 knots when you enter the mud. Usually you can't back out of that. And it's just at that point a waiting game. And it's no big deal. The tide was coming in, so it was less than 15 minutes and it had come up enough. We just needed a couple of inches to get her up, and then I backed up a little bit, and as you can see when I start pulling forward again, it was literally a matter of feet over to our port side, and then we were in the channel and we were fine. That channel to get out of there is maybe only, I would guess, 6 to 8 feet wide, and we just missed her. When we stopped for the evening, I flew the drone around to check out the surrounding area, and I discovered something I was certainly not expecting. I have no idea what this is doing there. It's not visible from any of the surrounding waterways. It's on an island in the middle of the marsh. There are no power lines going to it, no roads going to it, and no docks to access it. I don't know what this is. Maybe it's a drug dealer's house. Maybe I shouldn't know it's there. There's certainly some effort to hide it. I don't know. Although, on second thought, it kind of looks like some place if I were to build a house, I might consider building one. So maybe it's just someone that wants to be left alone, and I can totally respect that. That's why I'm not gonna say anything about where this is. I don't know. If anyone knows anything about this, hopefully there's no nefariousness to it. Hopefully it's just someone just wants to be left alone, and I totally get that. So have at it. That evening, a thunderstorm rolled in, and we love thunderstorms, and especially when the lightning strikes are in the distance. What are you guys doing up there? You be careful, don't fall. Don't fall, P-dubs. No, we don't want you to get hurt, we do. No. I say you no, no, no. You guys want to come down? Did you want to come back down, P-dubs? Yeah? After attending to the crew's needs, it was time to get back on the road again. It was projected to be a very calm day, and we wanted to make it across Sapelo and St. Catherine Sound in one day. And those sounds can get a little bit choppy if the wind kicks up, so we wanted to get her done while she was calm. And that's all we have time for this week. I would like to give a massive shout out to my Patreon crew. Without your guys' support, I wouldn't make these videos. And my Patreon crew is Joan and Juddy Judnick, Val and Chris Alcorn, Denise and Eli Sackett, Sherry Erickson, Deb Shaw, Matthew Spotten, Peter Allen, and Natalie Linehan. Thank you guys so very much. Your support really means the world to me. I do have one legacy patron member, and her name is Joan Linbo. Unfortunately, she has passed on, but she lives on in our hearts forever. We really miss you, Joan. If you are interested in joining our Patreon crew, there is a link in the description down below, and that'll take you to our Patreon page where you can sign up. And there are hundreds, literally hundreds of extra videos and photos of our travels, and I try and keep everything there up to date and post at least once or twice a week, so it gives you a little peek behind the curtain. If you do like our videos, please like, comment, and subscribe. That'll help us out more than you'll ever know, and that actually doesn't cost you anything, so hit that like button. Alrighty, I hope you all are well, and we'll see you next week.